All right, with less than 2 weeks before learners start their final matric exams, and with it having been a very strange year for all students, I'm sure that there's many young people and parents out there who are feeling rather stressed out at the moment. But don't worry, my next guest is on hand to help. His name is George Eadie, and he's the CEO of the Answer series, which is a company that specialises in comprehensive study guides covering all major subjects from grade 8 to grade 12 for teachers and learners. Delighted to have you with us this morning, George. Thanks so much for joining us.
Great to be here, Sarah Jane, and good morning to all your listeners.
Oh, you're bright this early morning. Good. Excellent. Right. I'm right, aren't I, in that this time of year is a very anxious period. There will be households across the country where I'm guessing that tensions are high. Learners are anxious because they're feeling under pressure. Parents are anxious because they're not quite sure how to deal with the learners and how to help them best, because it's often been quite a long time since mums and dads have sat exams themselves. Let's start off with the best way that learners should be preparing right now. What are your top tips?
Absolutely a crucial time of year. A lot of learners have put in so many hours of hard work, especially in a year with so much complexity. And now it's a time to turn to exam strategy, because even inferior fighting forces have won battles in the past just with good strategy. So we want to make sure that what effort has been put in now, learners are converting on that effort. And a few things that I like to break it out into some advice to consider 3 days before an examination, and then some things to do on the day and actually in the exam. And so when we think about sort of 3 days before, the main thing is to try to optimize for staying calm and focused. And a lot of what this is about knowing what to expect. A lot of what we fear is when we fear the unknown. So go over past examination papers, really anticipate what's going to happen in the exam, how many marks for which section, what kinds of questions are involved. That really seeks to sort of calm you down in terms of knowing what to expect.
So there's no point just sort of poring over the books and and I mean, I used to use sort of flashcards and stuff, and that worked to an extent. But as you're saying, and I remember I'm thinking about at university with my finals, the thing that really did it for me, and you've just said this, is those past exam papers, because that's just the style of questions, the way that they're set out. That was the preparation that I needed.
Absolutely, and at this stage, past examination papers are excellent because they present everything in one holistic package and give you an understanding of what to expect. Of course, in the run-up to exams, weeks in advance, it is worth building your confidence in a graded fashion in harder and harder questions within each topic. And in that respect, a very well laid out set of support material is important. And of course, I'm biased in suggesting that our study guides fit that bill, but exam papers are a crucial means of getting through to understanding what it's all about. Absolutely.
If you are just joining us, I'm on the line with George Eadie, who is the CEO at the Answer series, which is a company that specialises in study guides covering all major subjects from grade 8 to grade 12 for both teachers and learners. And of course, there's just a couple of weeks or less than before learners start on their final exams. If you've got a question for George around studying, any tips that he might be able to give you if tensions are running high in your household, or maybe you just want to be able to offer some support, or maybe you're the learner and you want to find out just to get a little bit of advice, just to maybe boost your confidence, you can get in touch on 021 446 0567, or you can send a voice note or a WhatsApp to 072 567 1567. In the days running up to, and it's one thing to kind of know that, okay, this is my matric year and perhaps I need to take a different approach, but in the last couple of days, I mean, is it possible that you can sort of overburden your brain? Breaks are important, right?
You can absolutely overburden your brain. And in this respect, it's again about remaining calm and biting off what you can chew. Our ability to retain short-term information is actually a very low capacity of the human brain. Our ability to accumulate long-term stores in our brain is definitely our greatest strength. And one of the things that really helps us is sleep. At night, our brain converts the things we learned in the day into long-term memory. When we're not getting that sufficiency of sleep, we're actually impairing our ability to convert on any of that last minute cramming anyway. And definitely that sense of being able to infuse your day with a little bit of fun activities or a little bit of light exercise allows that assimilation time, that time to let things sink in, so to speak, and lets you not get too obsessed with this outcome that's needed and therefore stay confident and calm.
George, we've spoken about the do's. What are some of the don'ts? What are some of the sort of the mistakes that learners make, and possibly their parents and even teachers too, that you see in your experience? What are some of the things that people do and you think, you know what, you're not doing yourself any favours by taking that approach?
Absolutely. So I think some of the things that can really set you back is, for instance, missing a few basic things like forgetting your stationery or a water bottle or your mask, and then rush home and perhaps being late. Those kinds of things are really you're able to sort of set a checklist a few days before and make sure you get those, let's say, those hygiene factors right for the day. I think that's very important. And then on the actual day, try to avoid speaking to that friend that is always going to be stressing on the day. You can always speak to them afterwards. It's important to remain in your zone in the run into the session. And I know that a lot of learners feel the need that surely in the last few hours before the exam, they should be sort of speedily going over all of their notes. And I really discourage that. I like to think of that as, if you're going to do some exercise, go for a warm-up. In that respect, as you said, have a look over some of your flashcards, have a look over some of the things you feel good about, so that you're in the zone and you're able to align with what's coming, as opposed to shoving things in your brain, so to speak. That's really not a good last-minute strategy, let's say. So those are a couple of things to really stay in. And again, some hygiene things. An examination can be up to 3 hours. And so getting some good sustenance in the morning is an important thing. Making sure you get a wholesome breakfast. Those kinds of things mean that your brain and your energy levels will be sustained throughout the exam.
The best advice somebody gave me once was don't have a risky meal the night before your exam. And I thought, you know what? And I laughed and I thought, but you're absolutely right, because what you don't want while you're sitting in an exam is to suddenly feel your stomach lurch and you think, oh no, or something nice and calming. And I love your advice about, putting yourself in an environment directly before the exam where if you know that you have a group of friends who are going to hype you up and say, what do you think about this? What's your answer for this? Or what have you studied? That is not helpful at all. I would add to that, and I'm no expert, but just taking yourself away to have a quiet 5 minutes, because that sort of heightened, although I suppose maybe not quite so much this year because of COVID and social distancing, but the sort of buzz that happens before an exam, can, I think, be rather unhelpful.
Absolutely. At this stage, any technique basically that allows yourself to be calm in the walking into and writing your exam, whether it be a sequence of breathing techniques or listening to some music that you really enjoy, is going to materially change your ability to perform. An overly stressed person, some stress is helpful, kind of activates those good sort of adrenal responses, but overstress is going to impair your ability to perform, and that'll undo all that hard work, and that's not really worth it.
Yeah, I love that you say on your website, if you don't know your work by now, last-minute cramming isn't going to solve the problem. Never a truer word, George, I think.
Unfortunately, that is true. So I would hate for someone to be in that position right now. But, so many learners actually don't give themselves enough credit for the work they have done. They feel so much more about what they haven't done.
Yeah.
And actually, that's almost always a smaller portion of things. And so I think it's really important that learners actually say, you know what, this has been a very tough year. I didn't get to everything, but what I did get to, I actually know it quite well, and I'm going to make sure I convert on that in the examination.
Can I throw something else in there, George, as well, and suddenly memories of my exams are flooding back to me. And this is something that I wasn't a great exam taker. Although I had the knowledge, but I wasn't good in exam conditions. I was much better in a kind of continuous assessment coursework situation. And I really struggled. I felt under pressure in exams. And for me, it was that going over those old exam papers, but not only going over those exam papers, but doing it under timed conditions, because so often it's the timing. If you've just given yourself carte blanche to, you can take 3 hours on a paper when you know you're only going to have one, it's almost like you're sort of lulling yourself into a false sense of security. So I used to do, is that even good English? I used to do, a couple of those old exam papers under the timed conditions that I would be in the exam, just so I can get a feel for, okay, I've got this amount of time to write my intro, this amount of time to do the body of the essay, for example, and then this amount of time to do a conclusion, rather than I sit there for an hour, doing an intro, and then I look up and the time's gone and I haven't written down the knowledge that I have. I've got that knowledge.
Absolutely. I mean, time management is essential. A lot of times learners immediately pile up, the clock starts in the examination and learners pile into the first question and get immersed in it and don't zoom out for just a minute or two right at the beginning of the exam. Look over all the questions, assign yourself some time markers. Okay, I'm definitely not going to spend too much, more than this amount of time on this section. That kind of thing. And definitely, if something is a super taxing question and you're perhaps not feeling confident about it or not as prepared, skip it. Definitely mark it with a nice, maybe even a highlighter or a clear mark so that you can come back to make sure you do that question. But skip it. Go on to the ones that you know how to do well so that you definitely don't get to that section at the end and you think, oh, I know this, but the time's up.
Yeah, absolutely. The website is, remind me, theanswer.coza.
Correct.
Yeah, theanswer.coza. There you go. If you would like to get hold of any of the study guides or just look for a bit of advice on the website, there's loads of stuff there. It's a really comprehensive guide and website. Theanswer.coza. CEO at The Answer Series is George Eadie, who's been my guest this morning. Thanks ever so much for your time, George. Great to have you all with us.
A great pleasure. Good luck, everybody out there, and especially to parents. I know this is a sensitive time. Give all the attention and positive affirmation to your learners that you possibly can muster. Good luck.
Yeah, hear, hear. Thanks ever so much indeed. George Eadie there, CEO at The Answer Series. Now,